I did just get rid of it. Wherever you think mine will restart. Yeah. You gotta start all over. I'm do something. Investigate. B-A-1-Y. Yes. Oh. Oh, I don't. Oh.
Here you go.
Oh. Oh, thanks. Oh, finally. Let me just check. Just restart this. Oh. Thanks. I'm pretty sure I have the DNS correct. And I'm still keeping notes of 2 days ago. This is main notes. The west, one that goes west, one that goes one east. Let's check it out. Let's just check. It's on there.
Yeah, check the DNS and forward it. It should point to that machine, whatever that IP is. Because you didn't run the password. You gotta run that password.
So be the set variable, PWD.
Right.
Putting in setting up the router key and then JNS DC on.
Right. You wanna keep that DNS router off? That's a good question.
Yes.
Okay, guys, our next machine, we're gonna wait for one person to get back, then we're gonna do one DC one.
We're doing it on DC four.
No, we just promoted.
Yeah, definitely on DC four.
We're gonna be on DC one, we're gonna be in Active Directory sites and services.
Alright. Yeah, DC four is up and running. Of course. I already copied this stuff.
Okay, guys, everyone can do this. If your DC one is up and running, you can jump right with me. So we're gonna go into Active Directory sites and services. I have all four DCs up. So I can see all four DCs. It doesn't matter which site a DC is on, or which domain a DC is on for this to, for it to show up in this list. So sites don't care about domains. I don't care which domain you're part of, you're defined in this site, then you're this site, regardless of whatever domain you're in. Right now, there's a process called KCC, Knowledge Consistency Checker. For some reason, students cannot remember this. I will ask you next class period, what defines replication between domain controllers? It's the KCC. And you'll remember, you won't remember. So, right now, DC1 currently replicates to 2, 3, and 4. DC2 replicates to 1 and 4. DC3 replicates to 1 and 4. DC4 replicates to 2 and 3. So this was all defined by the KCC. When we have two physical sites, I don't want to allow KCC to randomly have DCs over here replicate to DCs over here randomly. What I want to happen is, I want all these DCs to replicate to one another, all these to replicate to one another, and then only have two replicate across the WAN link. I want to control that, because if I have 6 different DCs replicating across the WAN link, that's gonna cost me a lot of money. Also, the more replication going on that WAN link, the less normal network traffic can go. So what we need to do is define our sites, then dictate which DCs are allowed to replicate across those sites. Those DCs that we allow to replicate are called bridgehead servers. Those servers need to have more memory and a better CPU, because what they're gonna be doing is encrypting that data before they send it across the WAN link. We're gonna assume that this WAN link is some public network. So we don't want our data to someone to grab it. So these bridgehead servers, before they replicate across the WAN link, they'll encrypt it first, send it across the WAN link, the other bridgehead server will decrypt it, and vice versa. We can use traditional IP to transmit that replication data. Or if it's a really slow link, maybe you just want to use SMTP. What is SMTP? Simple Mail Transfer Protocol. So basically, we can email the packets across. When you set up SMTP, it installs a simple email server, and as soon as you drop something in a certain folder, it automatically emails it out. There's no like user account names or anything like that. If a file is placed in a certain folder and it has a proper email format, it'll send it over to the other DC. So we can use that SMTP or IP to replicate the data across the WAN link. So, guys, first thing we want to do is highlight the default per site. Pressing F2, and I'm going to name it West.
That you highlight.
Press F2 to rename. Or you can right click and click. What do we rename? Are you here, Charlie?
Yeah.
Highlight default per site and rename it to West. Now, once you get that up and running, run that script that we got. Okay. I can promote these really quick. Okay. The next one is, we're gonna highlight site and create a new site. I'm gonna call it East. This link is not your physical link. This is just a logical link that I can place schedules on and define when replication can occur. So there's a default link between sites, and we're going to use that default link. We're going to look at that next.
I don't have a west side.
Good. Right click, rename the default first site to be West. So highlight that, default first, right click, rename West. Then highlight site, create a new one. New site. Okay. So call it East and highlight that replicate that link. Again, that's just a logical link. and it's saying, it's giving you a warning saying, now that you've created a new site, if you need to move any servers, go ahead and do that. The only way a server will know which site it's in is based on the subnet that it's in. So we're gonna create two subnets and, assign them to a site. So I'm gonna right click, new subnet. 172/21 will be west. Do it again. 172.16.8.0/21. That's east.
The first one was 172.16 that
0.0/21.
this one was.
Click OK. So now, the other thing we're gonna do is, we're going to look at that link. I'm gonna right click the link and go properties. I'm gonna right click and rename it. I wanna give it something more descriptive, so when I look at it, I know what site it connects. This one connects west and east.
You click on enter site passport.
Then I went to IP.
West End.
Right, rename that to West and East.
West and east.
Just so I can look at it and know what sites that connects. I don't wanna say west to east because it's really east to west and west to east.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna click on, right click, go to properties. I can define when replication can occur across that WAN link. I can define that it only occurs during non-business hours. I can define it only occurs on weekends, whatever your organization decides. We're gonna leave it available 24/7 in our lab, but you can define when. So you can just highlight, like, I don't want it to replicate on Sundays or Saturdays. Whatever your organization. But guys,
Doesn't matter?
you know, for right now, it doesn't really matter. But, guys, one thing I wanna say is, we don't want it to replicate 180 minutes. Guys, that'll take too long for this class. We're gonna change it down to 15 minutes, that's the lowest you can get. Guys, this is gonna be dictated by, if I create a new object in west, how quickly do I need it in east? If I don't need it for 24 hours, like if one site is New York and one site is Los Angeles, and I create a new user account in New York, do I need that immediately in Los Angeles?
I know.
It all depends on your organization. Click OK. So right now, our sites are set up. So when we start promoting DCs on the other side, it'll automatically fall on the right site. Guys, not only that, I'm gonna do one of the DCs graphically. We're gonna have a new menu when we promote it. It's gonna ask us to which site we wanna put it in. We'll let it automatically determine it based on its IP.
How is it gonna know to send them to the east, to the subnet?
Because of the subnet mask of that machine, the subnet of that DC. Now, guys, here's the other thing. Do you remember how when you created an OU, you can delegate control. So if I take a normal user account called B Ferris and I right click an OU and I delegate full control to that OU to B Ferris, any object in that, I have full control over. Well, I can do the same thing with a site. A site is nothing more than a container. So if I have 2 domains on the west site in that container, and I delegate control to B Ferris is kind of like a domain admin for any of those machines in that site. Full control, whether it's a DC, a DNS, you know. So a site is nothing more than a container. A domain is nothing more than a container. An OU is nothing more than a container. So if you delegate control over that container, anything in that container, that user has full rights over. So the other thing I want to point out is, now I'm going to go to DNS. Let's see what happens with DNS. Now I have a sites container. Guys, this will clear itself up. But right now, if a client is in the west site and goes to sign in, and it says, I need to know who the domain controller is. Well, the DC is going to be smart enough, the DNS is going to be smart enough to give them a DC in the same site as them. They're not going to have you authenticate across the WAN link. So authentication will now be local. Also, there's services like DFS. Let's say I have a DFS server over in west and a DFS server over in east. That service is site aware. So when a client tries to connect to a DFS server, it's going to try to connect them to a local DFS server, not one across the WAN link. So the two DFS servers will replicate across the WAN link. If I have another server over here, so basically what's going to happen is, if I connect to the DFS server, it'll connect me to here. When I save a document here, when it's allowed